Ukraine has dealt another crushing blow to its enemy, gouging out the Kremlin's eyes in the air. Now, the Russian Air Force is effectively operating blind. It has almost no way of scanning the skies for incoming drones, missiles, or aircraft, opening the door for Ukraine to potentially launch a series of devastating aerial attacks that President Vladimir Putin will never see coming. This could very well turn out to be a tide-turning moment in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and here's why. In the field of battle, the best and most successful armies cannot simply rely on brute force alone. Having large numbers of personnel, tanks, vehicles, aircraft, artillery, and other equipment is important, of course, but successful strategies also depend on intelligence. Military leaders must have the necessary tools to gather intel, scan their surroundings, read their enemy's movements, and predict their next plans of action. It's only with intelligence that the smartest and most impactful battlefield decisions are made, and without it, even the mightiest of military forces could be caught off guard by a sudden surprise attack or unexpected maneuver. Radar planes are some of the most important and effective tools for gathering intelligence, especially those that are equipped with airborne early warning and control (AEW&C) systems. They play a crucial role in modern warfare, taking to the skies in strategic locations and scanning their surroundings, painting a clear and detailed picture of the battlefield. They have the power to detect incoming enemy aircraft, missiles and drones, often from hundreds of miles away, giving friendly forces the time they need to take action and prepare for an upcoming attack. They're also highly effective at discerning friend from foe, as well as identifying and tracking multiple targets at the same time, providing an invaluable stream of real-time data to local interceptors, air defense systems, and other equipment on the ground. In short, AEW&C planes are essential pieces of the modern military puzzle. Any force trying to operate without them is automatically at a disadvantage. Well, that's exactly what Russia is trying to do. Thanks to aviation experts and open source intelligence analysts like Tom Cooper, it's known that when the war began, Russia's Air Force was estimated to have a small number of usable A-50 Beryov A-50 AEW&C aircraft. Based on the Ilyushin IL-76 transport plane, the A-50 was developed in the 1970s and first flew in 1978, back in the days of the Soviet Union. It officially entered service in 1985, and approximately 42 units were made before production ended in 1992, just after the dissolution of the Union. The base version of the A-50 is fitted with a large Liana surveillance radar system, with its antenna housed in a 30-foot wide rotodome that sits on top of the fuselage. The radar has a detection range of up to 400 miles when it comes to spotting air targets, and up to 190 miles for targets on the ground. Thanks to this, the A-50 has the ability to manage fleets of up to 10 fighter aircraft on air-to-air or air-to-ground missions, and it can stay airborne for up to 4 hours at a time, with a maximum range of 620 miles from its base. It can also be refueled in the air, if needed, for extended sessions of surveillance. Since the turn of the 21st century, Russia has gone through the trouble of modifying and modernizing some of its old A-50s into newer A-50U variants. These are largely the same, but come with a more advanced digital avionics suite for faster data processing and superior target detection. While the technical specifications of the A-50 are reasonably impressive, Russia has been quite wasteful with these radar planes. As stated earlier, more than 40 were made during the heyday of the Soviet Union, but many have been left to rust and rot, as Tom Cooper notes in his post, which was published in early 2024. Nowadays, finding photos of vanilla, non-upgraded A-50s is getting harder by the day, and if one finds any, it seems the aircraft in question are worn out and have not been moved for ages. Apparently, they became a rarity already about 10 years ago, and most are looking like this. Cooper then went on an open source intelligence hunt, scanning numerous sites and social media platforms to work out how many A-50Us Russia currently has at its disposal. The results of his research are as follows. The VKS Russian Air Force went into the all-out invasion of Ukraine with the following A-50Us. Bought 33, RF50602, should be in service, nickname Vladimir Ivanov. Bought 37, RF-93966, was nicknamed Sergei Atayank, reportedly shot down on 14 Jan 24. Bort-41, RF-94268, should be in service, nickname Taganrog. Bort-42, RF-50610, reportedly shot down on 23 Feb 24. Bort-43, RF-50608, damage on 25 Feb 23. Bort-45, RF-93952, should be in service. Bort-47, RF-93957, should be in service. So Russia began a full-scale invasion of a neighbouring nation with just 7 radar planes in its arsenal. Since then, as Cooper notes, 2 were reportedly shot down in 2024 and 1 was damaged in 2023. There are various news reports and sources to confirm these damages. In 2023, for instance, an anti-war partisan group in Belarus launched a successful strike on a Russian A-50, which was stationed at an airfield near the Belarusian capital of Minsk. The group, named Bipol, used drones to conduct their attack, claiming that the A-50 was so severely damaged it definitely won't fly anywhere. In January 2024, Ukraine claimed to have completely destroyed an A-50 over the Sea of Azov, which separates Russia from Ukraine. The Ukrainian commander-in-chief at the time, Valery Zaluzny, stated, "Warriors of the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine destroyed an enemy A-50 long-range radar detection aircraft and an enemy IL-22 air control center." Zaluzny also thanked the Ukrainian Air Force for what he called a perfectly planned and executed operation. There was some confusion at the time over whether the A-50 was damaged or destroyed, as a spokesman for the Ukrainian Air Force revealed that one of the Russian planes involved in the incident was able to make a landing. However, the spokesman for the Ukrainian Air Force, Yuri Itnat, added that the craft in question was beyond repair, going on to state, "So, no matter how you slice it, the target is destroyed and resuscitation will not help. The long-range radar detection aircraft A-50 was and is a priority target for us, and until today, the destruction of this aircraft seemed an impossible task for the Air Force." Barely a month later, the Ukrainian Air Force doubled its A-50 kill count, downing another Russian radar plane over the Sea of Azov once again. This was reported by former Air Force Commander Mykola Alishuk, who posted on Telegram at the time to thank those involved for their efforts. Further reports revealed that the A-50 was taken out by a Soviet-era S-200 missile system, and Ukrainian sources stated that 10 Russians were on board and therefore killed in the attack, including several high-ranking officers. It's also worth noting that Tom Cooper's report was made last year. Since then, Ukraine has successfully struck yet another A-50 radar plane during the iconic Operation Spiderweb attack of June 1st of this year. That attack involved swarms of drones stealthily smuggled onto trucks, which were then driven to key locations across Russia, before the drones burst out, took to the skies, and rained down fire on their targets, which included an array of parked planes like fighters, bombers, and even an A-50. The destruction of the A-50 during Operation Spiderweb has been independently confirmed by open-source intelligence analysts. So, while Russia started the war with 7 A-50s, Ukraine seems to have destroyed 3, with another one damaged by the Belarusian partisans. That could leave the Kremlin with only 3 functional radar planes, or a maximum of 5 if it was able to repair 1 or 2 of those targeted in earlier attacks. The open source analysts at AEW&C have been digging through satellite imagery and scanning Russian air bases to try to track the remaining A-50s down. And they may have spotted one, but it's not where one would expect. The A-50 found by AEW&C is currently sitting at the Vorkuta air base in northern Russia, almost 1,500 miles from the front lines of Ukraine. Satellite images of Vorkuta airfield as of August 2nd, 0658 UTC. The airbase housed one A-50U Mainstay, one 134 UBL Krusty, and 3 MiG-31 Foxhound. The A-50U airborne early warning aircraft arrived in June and is likely conducting missions over northern Russia, escorted by MiG-31BM interceptors. There doesn't seem to be much value in using a radar plane so far from the front lines of the conflict, in areas that Ukraine is highly unlikely to attack, and this tells us 2 things. First, it shows us that Russia is scared. The country has lost so much equipment over the course of the war, be it tanks, armoured vehicles, bomber planes, radar systems, air defence complexes, and AEW&C aircraft too. Clearly, in the wake of these massive losses, the Kremlin's commanders have been forced to rewrite their doctrines in order to preserve the weapons and hardware they still have. Evidence of this has been seen in Russia's ground-based attacks, which have in recent times regularly involved troops being sent into Ukraine either on foot or aboard simple civilian vehicles, without any tanks or infantry fighting vehicles to back them up. It appears to be a similar story with the A-50 radar planes. Russia didn't have many of them to begin with, and has already lost around half of its small fleet. It's likely that some of the surviving A-50s have been strategically repositioned to safer locations, like northern Russia, to simply protect them from further damage. And this represents a big shift in how those planes have been used over the course of the war so far. In the early stages, for example, Russia used its A-50s on a very regular basis. A November 2022 report from the Royal United Services Institute in London noted that A-50s were often used in the Donbass and flew an average of 2 to 3 sorties per day, providing higher resolution early warning and vector information on low-flying Ukrainian aircraft in those sectors. While they lacked the sophistication of more modern radar planes, the A-50Us gave Russia valuable information on a daily basis, flying behind the front lines, scanning the horizon for any signs of enemy aircraft or missiles, and keeping a close eye on the activities of the Ukrainian Air Force. They had the power to detect incoming attacks multiple minutes in advance, providing precious preparation time for Russian forces on the ground or in the air to activate air defences and launch interceptors in order to minimise and mitigate any eventual damage. Now, it appears that Russia's radar planes are essentially being kept under wraps, in safe places where they're less likely to be damaged, but also far less useful from a military perspective. And that leads to the second big lesson that can be drawn from all of this, which is that Ukraine may now have a golden opportunity to launch aerial attacks on Russia with a better chance of successfully striking its targets than ever before. After all, even taking the view that Russia has 4 fully operational radar planes left, at least one of them is miles from the front lines in Russia's northern regions. Many analysts also believe that another A-50 is stationed in the Far East, carrying out patrols along Russia's eastern coastline and the border with China. That leaves just 2 A-50Us, at the most, that are actually able to provide any useful intelligence for Russia in the fight against Ukraine. There's only so much that 2 radar planes can do. They're simply not sufficient to cover the full extent of the front lines and all the other territories that Ukraine could choose to target in the weeks and months to come. And when radars aren't running consistently and comprehensively, corridors of opportunity open up. Ukraine's intelligence services may have already identified areas that lack radar coverage and clear pathways to prime high-value targets. It could therefore be mere weeks or even days away from major Ukrainian missile, drone or even bomb strikes on more key pieces of Russian logistics, like command posts, airfields, oil refineries, fuel storage facilities, ammunition stocks and so on. It's not impossible that there could even be another strike on the same level as Operation Spiderweb or something even bigger. Because with radars out of the way, there's very little to stop Ukraine striking where it wants, when it wants, with the best chances of taking its enemy by surprise and dealing maximum damage with every single strike. Don't forget also that Ukraine has recently made Russian radar systems some of its top priority targets. On July 20, the Ukrainian General Staff shared footage of a successful strike on a Russian Nebo-M radar system, which is said to be worth around $100 million, as well as a Big Bird over-the-horizon radar station, plus a S-300P surface-to-air missile launcher, all of which were stationed in the Belgorod region. Earlier that month, on July 2nd, Ukrainian forces launched another big drone strike on a Russian Nebo-M radar complex, which had been stationed in northwest Crimea. The Crimean Wind Telegram channel detailed the impact of this attack. Yesterday, there was whining and howling among Z publics about some military facilities being hit at Tarkankut. Today, it became known what it was. Near the village of Mayak on Cape Tarkun Kut, a Nebo-M radar worth about $100 million was hit, a huge target and a very important one. This is a mobile radar complex for detecting aerodynamic and ballistic objects at medium and high altitudes, part of the Nebo radar family. The Nebo-M complex includes a meter-range radar module, the Nebo SVU radar, as well as a decimeter-range radar module, the Protvnik GE radar. The detection range of the complex is 600 kilometers, the number of tracked targets is 200. It was later confirmed that the entire Nebo-M complex was destroyed that day. That meant another $100 million loss for Russia, but more importantly, it also removed Russian radar coverage from a vast swathe of the Crimean Peninsula, giving Ukraine the chance to strike. A reserve lieutenant colonel confirmed this in an interview with Radio Free Europe Radio Liberty, stating, "We can assume that for some time Crimea will not be covered from the western and northwestern directions, and this opens a window of opportunity for the Ukrainian defense forces." Another successful strike also occurred in Crimea on June 26, when Ukraine's main intelligence directorate revealed that drone operators of the Special Ghost Unit had managed to obliterate an S-400 air defense system, along with a pair of 9.2 N2E control radars and 2 more 9.1 N6E detection radars. These are just some of the attacks of the last couple of months, but Ukraine has been actively targeting Russian radar and air defense systems for quite some time now, ripping out Russia's eyes in the skies one at a time and blurring its view of the battlefield. In response, Russia is scrambling. Open source intelligence analysts recently discovered that the country is repositioning large numbers of low-altitude radar systems, which are typically used for spotting low-flying threats like drones and cruise missiles. It's likely that these systems are being sent to the frontline areas and regions like Donetsk and Crimea to compensate for recent losses. But they're not going to be much help. These systems are nowhere near as powerful or effective as Nebo-M complexes or A-50 radar planes. They don't have the same range or capacities, meaning they can't give Russian forces much of an early warning if Ukraine does decide to launch an attack. Additionally, every time Russia moves a radar out of an area, it weakens that area, and as the total number of radar systems continues to decline, the Kremlin may soon find itself operating blind in key areas, having to hope and pray that Ukrainian missiles don't suddenly soar across the horizon and right towards their bases, buildings and military hardware. In other words, Russia is in a really difficult situation, with its radar capabilities slipping even further into disarray by the day. Over on the other side of the conflict, Ukraine is actually strengthening its radar systems, thanks to support from its allies across the NATO alliance. For example, it's soon set to receive some state-of-the-art German Hensoldt TRML-4D radars, which are capable of detecting artillery and mortar positions, in addition to tracking and identifying airborne targets too. These radars will help to power the IRIS-T SLM surface-to-air missile system, also provided to Ukraine by Germany, which has proven hugely effective when it comes to taking out aerial threats with a near-perfect success rate. Ukraine is also hard at work on domestic upgrades to its surveillance systems. It recently unveiled the awe-inspiring Sky Fortress system, which uses cheap and simple acoustic detection technology to listen out for the buzzing sounds of Shahed drones or the distinctive hum of low-flying cruise missiles, issuing immediate alerts as and when it detects any threats so Ukrainian soldiers can take rapid responsive action. So, while Russia's radars go blind, Ukraine is gaining a clearer and broader view of the battlefield, obtaining invaluable intelligence that will help to inform future defensive maneuvers, counterattacks and surprise strikes, both along the front lines and deep into Russian territory, leaving the Kremlin with nowhere to hide. Now, you can learn even more about Ukraine's latest successes in our recent video, looking at how Ukrainian drones recently busted through Russia's recently constructed concrete bunkers to deal another devastating blow to its aerial forces. Or check out our video about one of Ukraine's biggest intelligence victories of the war so far, as its incredible intelligence agents managed to obtain top secret details about Russia's navy and nuclear submarines. And finally, be sure to subscribe to our channel too, if you haven't already, so you can stay informed and up to date on all the big news and events from the front lines.